1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters don't move. Whatever click you choose.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. So today we got a very special guest. I'm interviewing a good brother by the name of Keystone out of the city of Riverside. Hey man, how you doing, Keystone?
I'm doing good, chill, man. It's good to be on here with you.
Yeah, it's good to finally get you on here. We've been trying to get this interview off the ground for about 2 weeks, but you know, I'll be ripping and running, procrastinating, forgetting and stuff. But we finally got it together though, man.
Yeah, you know, my days be like that too, man, with my daughter and stuff. So
right. You know. So Keystone, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. What are you up to nowadays? Just briefly, because we'll get more into that in depth in the course of the interview. But briefly, what are you up to nowadays?
Man, starting 3 podcasts. On Monday, I have Let's Get Money. On Wednesday, Freedom Ain't Free, and on Fridays, Fun and Games. Each one has its own topic. Like Let's Get Money is based on the financial segment. I'm a certified estate, trust, tax, income, and fund specialist. So I deal with those matters. I talk about it. I help you out through your financial situations and show you the best way to go about doing things. Freedom Ain't Free is talking about the criminal justice system and us being locked up and the different experiences that we've gone through, chill. You know what I'm saying? It may not have been together, but you know, we've experienced the same things. And then Fun and Games is about the lowrider community and music.
Okay, that's what's up. So you say, speaking about Let's Get Free is about the criminal justice system. And unfortunately, you happen to be caught up in one of the biggest conspiracy cases, right, in Riverside County, right?
Yes, sir.
And so we'll get into that a little bit later. So was the time that you spent in the California Department of Corrections what got you interested in coming up with the idea for Freedom Ain't Free?
Oh, yeah, I would say so. But I got friends that's locked up, man. They've been gone since the early 90s or mid 90s, and they still not free for crimes where people didn't lose their life or nothing, robberies and stuff like that. And they got life sentences, like disproportionate to the crime, something that you shouldn't be doing Mandela time for 28, 29 years. I got one partner been locked up for 34 years.
Wow.
Come on, man. And he's not the killer. The killer been home for 10 years and he's still incarcerated. Like, come on.
Wow.
Man. Yeah, but that's Riverside County for you. That's how they get down, bro. You know, this is the worst county to catch a case in California.
And so overall, in total, how many years did you spend incarcerated in the California prison system?
About 11 and a half years. I went to juvenile at 17, selling crack. Then at 19, I was looking at 75 years and 3 life sentences. Got found guilty and sentenced to 10 years, 8 months for a crime where I proved I was incarcerated and they still found me guilty. And then I got out in.
Okay, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, because we'll definitely come to that. So give us a little background history on your upbringing and stuff like that.
Okay, well, I was born in Riverside, but raised between Riverside, Compton, and South Central. My mom lived and my grandmother lived in Riverside, and that's where I was primarily raised at. I wanted to be with my mom and my other siblings that my mom had. And then my dad lived in Compton, so I would be back and forth between the two. So I went to elementary school, junior high, and high school in both cities. So I'm kind of like a unicorn in the sense that I know the LA life and I know Riverside.
Right, and that's rare, and that would definitely give you a unique perspective to speak a little bit on both of those areas. During what time period was all this taking place, so we can give our viewers an idea of the time period?
The late 80s, early 90s. You know, it was wild then. You know, crack was really prevalent and everything was going on at that point in time, Chill. So, you know, I mean, you was there. You act like you wasn't around when this stuff was going on, bro. You,
Right.
you know what we was going through around that time. But just knowing that, you know, we were doing something to protect our community and stick together. That's what I got involved in gangbanging and stuff for, not for where it went to today, to be honest with you.
Right. And so you say that you was raised in between the LA area and Riverside County. Did you have a certain preference for one area over another?
Well, when I was in LA, I used to be around the Fruittown Pyrus. Actually, they thought I was going to be a blood, but I lived my siblings and I was really from Riverside. Like that's what my heart was at in that place. So me being from there and always going back there, I'm like, I was around Crips most of the time and I felt more comfortable around them. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that I didn't feel comfortable around the Fruittowns because I knew them. They knew my family. Like I was in a lot of my family's from Fruittown, Piru. I got a brother from there, but me, I just felt more comfortable around Crips, and that's why I became what I became.
And I think you just said something that's kind of interesting, that you got a brother that that's a blood or is a form of blood. I don't know which. I know at one point in time you were a Crip. Is your brother older or younger than you? And also, how was that dynamic of you guys being on different colors of the rag?
I mean, I was always around the blood, so it didn't really matter. When I came, they just accepted me. They knew I was a Crip. My uncles was G's from Fruittown, so I was able to blend in. And my cousins and half of my family's from there. So when I go, they just know me. I'm Marquis. You know what I'm saying? I'm Bubby's son. I'm the kid that's running around all the time out there, just doing stuff. So, I mean, I fit in.
And is your brother younger or older than you?
I'm the oldest of 10 siblings. My youngest brother passed away, the baby one. But my brother that's 6 months older than me on my dad's side, he was a blood.
Oh, okay. And so when do you say in Riverside that you start getting caught up in the street or hopping off the porch, as the popular saying is now?
I was going to Canyon Springs High School when it first opened up, and the girl told me I got her pregnant. So I went to Riverside where all my homeboys lived, all my friends, and at that time they was forming a gang. So I just started messing around with them and started selling crack because I wanted to get the money to pay for this abortion for this girl. So that's really what made me jump off of the porch, to be honest with you.
Right. And so what was it? Was it the fast lure of money selling crack? And for those who never grew up in that time period or experienced that era, explain briefly, you know, what was it like selling crack back then?
Dangerous as hell. Dangerous. Very dangerous. You picked a side, like you was gonna be on this side or that side, and you was out there in it. Like, let me see how I want to explain this. We basically, if you were from Riverside, we expected you to be from Riverside. Let me say it like that. We had people that were from Riverside, and we had gangs from LA coming out here, and those people were joining those gangs. And for us, we consider them to be busters because, nigga, we from right here, bro. We born and raised right here. Like, why is you going? I've been to LA far more than you've been to LA. If anybody should be from a different gang, it should be me, nigga. I should be a blood. I'm not. I'm a Crip. I grew up with you niggas. You see what I'm saying? So,
right. Well, let me ask you a question, right? Because to keep it 100, you know, I think a lot of us from our area, Riverside County, San Bernardino area, back in the days, especially when Crips and Bloods first migrated into our areas, you would have a fair amount of individuals claiming LA gangs, even though we knew and we had been knowing them all our entire lives. I always got the feeling that you had some of these dudes who would claim these LA gangs because they felt it gave them more validation as a blood or a Crip, instead of like just claiming a lesser known gang like from Riverside or from Banning or from San Bernardino. How was your feelings on that? And you're right, we did view those dudes as busters because they would affiliate themselves with something they were really not.
You're not from there, bro. You don't know nothing about right there. So how are you gonna claim that? That was my attitude with it. And I used to be on cats' heads about it. And now the fact of the matter is those same individuals, because they're from Riverside or from this area, they had to come back here regardless. And then them people that they was running around with, they're not around them anymore. They're not even dealing with them anymore. You know who they dealing with? Us.
Right. And so why do you feel that certain individuals who were from the Riverside County or San Bernardino County area would choose to claim gangs that they had not grew up in? And
validation, bro. You know, clearly they thought we were softer than them because they came from the city. That didn't make a difference though, bro. Like it's killers everywhere, bro. It's killers everywhere. It's hard niggas everywhere. Like you got marks, you got people that just sit and watch. You got people for everything from every neighborhood, bro. It ain't no different from one to another. And we've all been infiltrated, whether people want to understand that or not, because it ain't nothing you can do that they can't see, period.
Most definitely. And so once you begin to sell drugs in an attempt to get this this operation that you wanted for your girlfriend, did that send you deeper into the gang life, gang activity, so on and so forth?
Oh, I got full-fledged. I got my homeboy Pukilo, rest in peace. When I would come from Moreno Valley, I would meet him at the bus stop on University, and we'd just get cracking, bro. Like it was on. Like, and that became, after I did it the first time and I got the money to cover the abortion. See, I had a job, bro, at 15 and a half. I was working at Del Taco. That was my first job. I got accused of stealing from the restaurant. So when they did that, I'm like, man, I ain't take nothing from y'all. I dug in my pocket and put on my mind like $700 on me. I'm selling crack. I ain't tripping off of this job. So I quit right then. And then I full-fledged went into what I was doing and start selling crack. You see what I'm saying? But I work, bro. Like I keep a job. That's the main thing you got to do.
And then so eventually, as I mentioned to you earlier, you ended up getting caught in, I believe at the time, was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, conspiracy gang-related theory or gang-related murder back and forth. So explain a little bit of that. Can you explain that and talk about how did you end up getting caught up into that?
Well, I gotta kind of explain the history of the east side of Riverside. Like when I grew up over there, it was all black, bro. So, you know, it wasn't no Hispanic gangs. It wasn't nothing like that. And our enemies was the west side, basically. But not knowing that most of our families was from the west side. Like we got family from everywhere inside of Riverside, almost all my homeboys. It's not like you're gonna say, oh, somebody's from the west side and somebody from our hood is not related to them. You're related to them. Like it is.
Right. And let me just say this briefly. And it's ironic that no matter where you go, whether it's Riverside, San Bernardino, Pomona, Los Angeles, whatever, the areas that eventually end up beefing at one point in time, like you said, everybody was friends. A lot of times you'll have family on both sides, and then eventually, you know, maybe a fight over a female, a fight at a party, whatever, eventually separates all that and have people fighting who at one point in time and had close knowledge of each other. So I just wanted to interject that. But yeah, excuse me, go ahead.
I would say I went to juvenile hall, and when I came home and I went to juvenile hall, I was saying 88. 88 for possession of a controlled substance. When I was in juvenile hall, I had a friend that I went to high school with. His name was so while we were in Twin Pines Ranch together, we used to talk about getting out and moving work. I know they the plug like that. The Hispanics have everything. Whatever you need, you can get it from them. You know, primarily that's who we going through to get drugs, bro. Like you just got to admit that fact. So me and Will have worked out a plan because for us to stay, you know, get along and to do this work together. So when I got out, I started seeing the Hispanic gang and stuff. I'm like, wow, they really got a gang out here. Like, I wasn't playing when he told me what he told me. So next thing I know, we're getting into it with them now. Like some of them shoot at some of my partners. We retaliate. Let
me ask you a question. Do you know, because you guys somewhat shared the same area, right?
Yeah, but okay. So like I said, the east side was all black at first, bro. And then we used to have at Patterson Park every Sunday, people from everywhere, San Bernardino, LA, everybody would bring their lowriders to Patterson Park. And they would, you know, hop and just sit out there and hang out. You know, that was the day that we chilled on Sunday. And then the police, once the Hispanic population started to getting large, basically split our neighborhood in half. University Avenue, they basically told us don't go on the side of towards 3rd and Blaine, and told us to stay on the side towards Martin Luther King or 14th Street. They blocked the park off and made us go to Boardwell Park and told us we couldn't be over there. And the next thing you know, that whole side was Hispanic, bro. Like they was everywhere. So once I got out of juvenile hall and we started getting into it with them, I'm like, man, we all have the same enemies. Like that don't make sense for us to be fighting each other in our own backyard. So we started talking. I told him, I'm like, bro, in order for us to do what we're going to do, we can't be fighting each other. Like the worst thing for us, we got all the same enemies. So why are we fighting each other? So we start peace there. I bring peace. We're not fighting each other anymore. And then one night, I guess they have a meeting, the Hispanics and the blacks, and a murder occurs in Casablanca. And attempted murder.
Let me ask you a question or kind of make something known for the viewers who may not be familiar with this area. So when you say the same, when you and the gang that you guys was initially got into it with the Hispanic gang and started fighting, when you say that you guys had the same enemies, you're referring to different black and Mexican gang, right? Right. Yeah. So both you guys was also fighting the same Mexican and black gangs. So
not necessarily. We was fighting the black gangs, to be honest with you. We wasn't really getting into it with the Hispanics from the south side or the Hispanics from the west side. That wasn't an issue. We was fighting the Hispanics in our own backyard. Although the Hispanics from the west side, we sometimes would have little skirmishes with them, but it wasn't nothing serious. You know what I'm saying?
And then so you said at some point in time there was a meeting, and so you're talking about a meeting between
the Hispanic gang, our gang, and their gang,
and the Hispanic gang that pretty much share a close area to you guys.
Yeah, exactly. The East Side Revas. I'll just say that because it's a collection of them. It's not just one. It's 14th Street. It's Tiny Dukes. It's other ones. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay.
But needless to say, they have this meeting and those two crimes occur. Telling occurs on both sides, and the Mexican mafia steps in and tells them if they don't fight us, then there's a green light on them, and the war ensued.
So to make it clear for the viewers, so some individuals from where you're from and some individuals from the Hispanic gang that you mentioned, they get together and they go ride on some other gangs. Black and Mexican.
Hispanic, yes.
Someone loses their life, and then once word gets back to the higher ups on the Mexican side in prison, word is sent back down that basically you guys don't ride with blacks to go harm other Mexican Hispanic gangs. So now either you guys go and retaliate on the blacks who you chose to go ride with to harm other Mexicans, or when that gang comes to prison, you guys will be green lighted.
Yes.
Okay, and so then what happens from that point?
They arrest 28 individuals, the largest conspiracy at the time.
Well, hold on. So after they get the orders, after that gang gets the orders, then they do come back and basically make a surprise attack on your side, right?
They killed my homeboy Lil Joe, talking to him in a yard. And then that's when all hell broke loose after that. Like after they killed him, that was one of our G's. They killed him, and then it was basically tit for tat after that.
So when he was killed, in his mind and in the mind of all your homies, there was no beef between you guys and the gang that killed him, right? So it was basically like a surprise shooting or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it kicked off a big giant war.
Exactly. That lasted over 30 years, bro.
That lasted 30 years, huh?
Yes. Over
wow.
30 years. It's finally getting to peace over there with us and them, like where we just don't commingle, but we're not fighting each other, and that's a blessing. Peace.
Well, no, that's definitely a great thing. And so, in the midst of this war between where you're from and the Mexican gang, eventually the war gets out of control or whatever, and you say there's eventually indictments handed down, right?
Yeah. But prior to the indictments, the war hadn't started. Like that, none of that happened until after the case was resolved. So after everyone was sentenced and gone away, then the war started. So it wasn't like the people that were involved were present when the war started. They weren't. They were all gone away.
Oh, okay. So when these indictments are handed down, these indictments are handed down for when your gang hooked up with their gang and went and did whatever they did.
Yeah. So like I said, the first time I was looking at 75 years and 3 life sentences, I was arrested for terrorist threats, dissuading a witness, assault with a firearm, and false imprisonment. That was for a lady named Chandra Williams, and I'll explain that. I was also arrested for that conspiracy to commit murder. I was also arrested for attempted murder and conspiracy to attempt murder. And I was also arrested for another false imprisonment, burglary, and assault. I beat all of those charges. The conspiracy to commit murder, I was the only person that wasn't taken to trial for the case because there was no witnesses against me. Everything that they accused my homeboys of at the time, they threw on me. So if you had a case, I was involved. That's just basically how they did it. And then they tried me for all that stuff at one time. And one of my friends, the one that I was talking about that's been incarcerated for 34 years, he was involved in that case. They stated that he drove the vehicle, and they gave him a life sentence for it. He's done 34 years for that, and now he's back for resentencing, and they're going to send him back without remedy, without letting him out, when the actual individuals who committed the crime are almost all free. There's no one locked up but him. That's it.
Wow. And so let me ask you this question. So on your side of the indictments, how many people from your area was indicted on this particular charge when you guys got together and went and did the shootings or whatever, brought along these charges?
Probably about 18.
And approximately how many on the other side?
About 10 or 15.
So then basically all those individuals in some form, shape, or fashion got caught up in this conspiracy.
If you were at the meeting, they were going to find you guilty of the charge. Like, you didn't have to participate. You didn't have to go. You didn't have to do nothing. If you were at that park in that meeting, then they were going to convict you of the charge of being a co-conspirator. So you may not even been in the circle talking about what they were talking about, but if you were at the park and you admitted to being at that park at that time, you were a part of it.
Right. And around what year was that?
This was in 1990.
And so once again, how much time were you facing for all that stuff?
75 years and 3 life sentences.
And so how were you able to avoid being, found guilty, or did you go to trial? Was the charges dismissed?
I went to trial. The conspiracy to commit murder, they dismissed in the interest of justice. The terrorist threats, dissuading a witness, and assault with a firearm, that's what ultimately got me sent to prison. But like I said, it was a lady that smoked crack. She said that I threatened her and told her don't go to court. She said she didn't remember the days, but she said that she believed it was after Thanksgiving. Well, I was incarcerated from November 21st to December 10th. There was no way that I could have threatened this lady, but they still found me guilty and gave me 10 years, 8 months for that charge alone.
Wow.
The attempted murder, they dropped it in the interest of justice, and the conspiracy to attempt murder, they dropped in the interest of justice. They kicked out the assault and the attempted robbery because the victim stated on the stand that he never saw me, but when his cousin came in, he got on the stand and said that he saw me when he had never identified me before. The judge stopped the case and threw it out right then because he was like, this man never identified Mr. Brooks before, but now you're saying that he was involved in this. Nah, so he threw the case out. That's how I beat that one. But ultimately, I was sentenced to 10 years, 8 months. I fought an appeal, and I got out. I got it down to 6 years after. I didn't want to fight no more after I had already went to prison. It didn't matter. I did the time. So once I got back, I just took what they was going to give me, and that was 6 years, which gave me like 90 days left. I actually did 3 years, 3 months that time, and I got out in 95.
So let me ask you this. Initially, once you're picked up for a slew of charges among 27, 28 other individuals. How old were you, and what was your thought process like at the time? Were you feel fearful for going to prison for a long time, because they was throwing a lot of numbers at you guys, right? So how did
I can't say I was fearful. I knew what I signed up for, bro. Like, I knew what I signed up for, and I love my brothers. So as far as me saying anything about anything, because most of the cases I didn't have nothing to do with. I might have knew what happened, but I wasn't per se involved in what took place.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If something did happen. But needless to say, I just dealt with it, bro. Like, that pressure is something different. But a lot of people fold under it. I just wasn't one to do that. I had a name to keep for myself, bro, and I respected that. Like, I considered myself a gang member, and I followed that code, those rules. I did what I was supposed to do.
And so, out of all those people who got caught up in that indictment, to your recollection, how many of them were actually sent to prison?
28 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, 28 of them went to prison. It was more than 20. Like, that's how many people got convicted. It was more than 28 people involved, bro, that they say were involved. Like me, they can't count me in the 28 because they had to dismiss the charges on me.
And do you recall some of the more longer sentences people caught up in that conspiracies received?
25 to life. Like I said, my friend Pierre Carter, he's been in there since 91, bro, and he's still in there right now. He's sitting in Riverside County Jail waiting to get resentenced, and they're not going to resentence him. They're just going to send him back to prison. And he's been gone 34 years. That's longer than Nelson Mandela did, bro. And he didn't kill nothing.
And so during the course, so basically you said once you went to prison on that case, you got sentenced to 10 years. You filed an appeal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lengthy process. And so by the time your appeal came through, you had already done 5-6 years?
3. It took 18 months for it to go through, and then another 18 months for me to go back. So I actually did, like, when it was all said and done, 3 years and 3 months I got out.
And so your appeal was dropped down to what, 6 years or whatever? So
yeah, 6. They what happened was they charged me with I'm like one of the first people to ever get charged with terrorist threats and dissuading a witness. Them putting that charge on me, what they said I made was a conditional threat. I told her, if you go do this, then I'm going to do this to you, which is a conditional threat. So that's how I got the case overturned, was based on that. They didn't really dismiss it. They just brought me back and said, hey, you can retry him again for this. And that's all it was. And then they just gave me a deal.
Oh, okay. And then so once you finally paroled, how old were you, and what was your mindset like?
I was 24. No, 23 when I got out. I was 23. I was angry. I was mad because I know I didn't do what they had sent me to prison for. I was frustrated at the system. And then, like I said, I had graduated high school when I was 18. I was really pissed because I had already became a certified welder, and I had my LA City Building and Safety Code welding license. So they didn't believe what I was telling them when I said I didn't do this stuff. They just, took whatever these people said. The police paying for a room for this lady to stay in while they tried me and all this stuff. And even though I had a career in front of me, and they knew this, like the DA took my welding license out of the house, but that didn't matter. They still sent me to prison. So when I got out, I was pissed off, bro. I was mad. I'm just gonna be
right. And let me just add something real quick. When you said that the DA was paying for the ladies to stay in the hotel, 100% true, you guys. The DA, they are not, they don't seek justice. They try to get a conviction. They pretty much did the same thing in my case. There was now in my case though, I was 100% guilty, but still in all, they had a witness who they knew was lying. They paid this lady, cleaned her up. She was on drugs, paid for her to stay in certain places, would bring her in and just, so the DA, they do a lot of foul stuff in the name of trying to get a conviction. And like I say, I was 100% guilty, but the way that the lady described me doing this shooting, I knew 100% she was nowhere there. she came forward 6-7 months later after she got arrested for a crime. And so, yeah, the DA definitely doesn't play fair.
Nah, not at all, bro. They be on some shit because it's not justice they seek. They just want a body. That's it, bro. They gonna get paid off of sending that body to prison. Right. That's it.
And so, excuse me. And so, once you got out, what did you do? Did you continue hanging with your homies, the gang, or did you try to get your life on the straight and narrow?
I always keep my life on the straight and narrow, bro. Once I got out, I got a job at San Bernardino Steel, one of the largest structural steel manufacturers in the state of California. I became a welder, fitter, quality control inspector for them. And in 1997, I got arrested at my job with a Mac 12 and 2 12 gauges in my trunk. They took me for what they told me was a bank robbery.
Wow. Okay. And so you are at work and the police come to your job, or how did that happen? I mean, how did you happen to just get arrested for guns and so on and so forth?
I was supposed to take some guns from point A to point B. I did so. But in the midst of doing it, I was going to be late to work and I was already on probation. If I didn't make it to work on time, they was going to be tripping. So I said, okay, I know I got to drop these off, but I can go to work and do it when I get off. My partner will be up at that time. Even though I got off like at 3 a.m, I know he'd be up. So I was going to just drop them off. But when I pulled in, I saw the unmarked car there and I'm like, ooh, somebody in trouble. I'm not thinking they there for me, bro. And I go in and I get ready to start working. Well, my supervisor comes out and calls me and is like, hey, you need to come to the front office. The plant supervisors want to talk to you. So when I go up there, there's 2 plainclothes detectives and they start like tell me to come in for a parole search because I was on parole for the case that I had just got out, or I had been out for the past 2.5 years. And they was going to do a parole search. So when I let them search me, they took the key to the car that was outside out my pocket. And they was looking like lifting up my shirt and stuff and pulling my arm, like the sleeves of my arms up, looking for burns and like dye. And they was like, do you see the burns or green, the red dye on them? And I'm like, what are they looking for? So then when they take everything out of my pocket, I have some money that I got the day before from my partner that paid me to take the guns. They start sniffing the money and they're like, oh, this got some type of solvent on this guy. It's like red. So then they put that on the desk and the other one went outside to go search the car. That's when he found the guns. And then they took me to jail for the guns. That's what they took me for. But once I got into the system and I found out what was going on, I was under investigation for 25 counts of armed bank robbery. And I was looking at 448 years and 8 life sentences. But I'm sitting here talking to you today.
Well, that's definitely a miracle. And so basically what you said is you was doing someone a favor. Someone gave you some guns to take the guns from point A to point B. And unbeknownst to you, those guns or whatever was suspected of being used in a bank robbery. How did you get caught up in the bank robbery as far as being a suspect and things of that nature? How did the police get on to you?
It was a guy that worked with me. He told them that the day before his mother-in-law's house had got raided. They were growing weed in the backyard. He didn't live there, but they left a warrant because they wanted to get the weed out the backyard. It had his name on it. It was for petty theft and I think some traffic violations. But the day before, a bank robbery occurred and he went to the police and then told them that I committed the bank robbery and that they should go look at me and that I had dye all over me. And that's why the police came there looking for me like that. But when they didn't find the dye, now they're questioning his story. So they just take me to jail. When they get me to jail, it's a fed in there and the 2 detectives that came and got me. And when they question me, they ask me, I'm like, man, I got paid to take the guns from point A to point B. Who paid you? I can't tell you that. Like, I got a family, bro. Like, I can't tell you that. They're like, well, you know, you're going to jail for bank robbery. I'm like, well, I don't know nothing about a bank robbery. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. When I said that, the Fed got up and walked out, and that was it, bro. That was my conversation with the authorities. They took me and locked me up, and that was it.
And so, behind all that stuff, how much time were you facing this time?
Like I said, 448 years and 8 life sentences.
Wow. So how many bank robberies did they suspect you of or were you charged with?
They had me under investigation for 25 counts of armed bank robbery.
Those state charges or were those federal charges?
No, they were state charges. Like I said, once I explained my situation to the feds, they got up and just walked out the room and they left it to the state. Basically what it was, dude said that I committed the robbery, came and testified on me. But he said he did the robbery with me. He said he was a part of the crime. And as my supposed crime, he can't just testify against me without corroboration of evidence. But while I sat in jail, bro, like I got a different look on life. I got a right relationship with God, bro. And I really started, seeking God for everything. And when I was in that courtroom going to trial, basically it was like God telling me, nah, don't go to trial. Just take this time and do what you got to do. And that's what I did, bro. I took a deal for 9 years with 85%.
And at that time, how old were you?
26.
And how long had you been out from the previous sentence that you had done?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. So what did that feel like, knowing that, because I'm pretty sure during those 2.5 years when you was living or in enjoying yourself, but once you're locked back up again, it suddenly feels like, dang, I just got out. So what did it feel knowing that you had done all that time and now you was going back to do another long sentence?
The pressure of the whole thing is just something different, bro. Like I said, looking at 248 years and 8 life sentences, that type of pressure is just different. The average person is going to do what? They're going to tell everything that they know to get out of the situation. It was his word against mine. It was me and him. And they were trying to tie a lot of things that happened with my other homeboys together to make it like we have robbed a whole bunch of banks. But I was only convicted of one of the 25 that they tried to say that I was involved in.
And so how much time did the other guy who
they gave him immunity?
So the other guy who initially got his house raided and then told him that you was involved, he ended up getting immunity for his testimony? Yes. Wow.
Yeah, they said it was 4 people involved. I'm the only one who did time for it. Because if I ain't saying nothing about nothing, then how are you going to have information? Because he said he didn't know nobody else. He didn't have nobody else's name. He said, I knew everybody.
And so when you go to do these 9 years in prison, what was your journey like in prison?
Different. Different in the sense that in the county, I did a lot of fighting. I fought a lot in the county, and not because I chose to fight or because I'm some type of tough guy. It's none of that. I know God watched over me throughout everything that I've been through in my life, bro. But when I got to prison, I knew I was blessed, bro. It was a guy that I used to do Bible study with, and like I got to prison, and like within 3 weeks in reception, bro, I was already at the counselor. And that's strange, chill. Like when you get to prison, you wait a couple months to get up out of there. Within 3 weeks, I was at classification, and they told me I was going to CMC. When I got back, one of my partners was like, hey, where they tell you going, Stone? I said, I'm going to CMC. He was like, bro, you blessed. Like, you blessed. You going to the one of the best religious theology schools that you could go to within the church. I mean, within the prison system. That's what CMC was at the time. Tex Watson had been there, and he built a church there that was amazing, bro, like super amazing. So when I told him I was going there, he introduced me to a guy by the name of Marvin Adams. He was a corporate attorney, and we went there together. He asked me when we met what I was in for, and I told him the bank robberies. He was like, you don't have to rob a bank. What were you doing that for? And I said, well, I was getting money, bro, to start a corporation and to do some other things. He said, man, I'm a corporate attorney. If God said the same and we go to the same, when we get up here, if we can get in the cell together, I'll teach you everything that I know. So like I said, God, bro, once we got there, within 30 days, we was in the cell together, and he was teaching me everything about corporations and small business. And basically my second time to prison was different than my first time. My first time, I was fully engulfed in gangbanging and being involved in everything and running around with the homies. The second time, I was more to myself and reserved. I was more concerned about making a better life for myself, because along with that 9 years came 2 strikes. I had pleaded guilty to 16 felonies. I knew that if I committed anything else, if I did anything else, they're going to give me a life sentence. And I've been out for over 20 years, and that life sentence is still hanging over my head. And
so when you go to CMC around what year was that?
2000.
2000?
Yeah. 2000. Go ahead.
And no, I was gonna say, and then you're right. A lot of times, like you say, when an individual happens to be facing a lot of time, the prosecutor believing that, of course, we'll never change our lives, they'll give us what appears to be a sweet deal at the time, but they're hoping that, we'll eventually go to jail, get out, and recommit, and then they can give us life. And so by that time, the 3 strikes law was in full swing, and so you chose at that point in time to change your life around and make a decision, huh?
Yeah, definitely so, bro. Like I couldn't keep going down the same road, and I wanted to know something. I wanted to know about finance. I wanted to know how to acquire wealth and keep it for my family. I wanted to know how to do things without an attorney and get screwed over by the system. I'm doing all the work, but you reaping all the benefit. That didn't make sense to me. And for any artist out there, that was my attitude about that.
And so what were some of the things that you learned that you feel was extremely beneficial?
Just knowing God, bro, that was the main thing that was beneficial to me. But that time away from my family, see, once I took that deal, chill, I already had 2 kids. One was, I think Latine was 5 and Anje or 4. Anje was like 16 months old. So my 2 daughters, I had to calculate like, okay, if I'm gonna take a deal, how much time am I gonna take and how will my children be when I get home? You know what I'm saying? Like you got to take those things into account when you're doing stuff like that. And that was my thought process in it. I knew that when I got out, my 5-year-old would be 13 and my 16-month-old would be 9. You know what I'm saying? So I gave thought process to those things. Like, am I going to be able to get home and take care of my family, bro?
Right. And so what was it like, going to prison, a young father, and having to watch your children grow up for a significant amount of time without you and also without you being in their lives and without them being in your life?
Difficult, but a good thing, because the first time I went to prison, I wasn't married. The second time I went to prison, I was married to my children's mother. So she was able to come for conjugal visits and stuff like that. So that made the time a little easier. And I was able to spend days with my kids, not just a few hours.
Right. And so what were some of the things that you learned over time that you felt were extremely helpful in prison in helping you to make a transition to I guess a law-abiding citizen once you parole?
Let me see. When I was in CMC, bro, like I went to School of the Bible. That's what they had there. So I was getting into religious theology, but the institution had a welding program. So they allowed me to basically become an apprentice within their welding program. And I taught the inmates how to weld. So I was able to keep my welding craft up in there. And then once I left CMC East in 2002, I went to CMC West, and there I became a correctional counselor's clerk, which allowed me to learn the computer and start doing other stuff.
Right. And so when you were at CMC East initially, was Suge Knight there?
No, Suge wasn't there when I was there. No, Robert Downey Jr. had just left when I got there.
And so when you become this clerk, what are some of the things that you learned? And then so you had told me earlier that's when you became extremely knowledgeable about the computer.
Yeah, because basically man, God is good, bro, because everything in my life up until that point, like him telling me to take that deal, me meeting Marvin and him teaching me about corporations. And then when I went to West, I went to go take small business administration courses because they had that at that institution. But when I got there 30 days after I was there, they took it out. So I wiped tables in the kitchen. That was my job, wiping the tables. And all I could do was, just say I'm wiping tables for Jesus, because I had never had a menial job like that before, always doing some welding or in a high paying job, PIA maintenance or something like that. But I met a kid from Ohio, and he basically told me that I could go to college while I was in there. And once he told me that, I signed up for Coastline Community College, bro, and I started going to college while I was in there. But in order to do your term papers, you have to type them. I didn't know how to type, and I didn't have a typewriter. One day I was in my dorm area, and the sergeant called me and asked me to come down there. And when I went down there, he asked me would I be his clerk. And I was like, yeah, I don't have a problem doing that. Well, when I left out, he came running after me and was like, do you know how to type? I was like, no, I don't know how to type, but if you give me the opportunity, I'll show you that I know how to do this. So basically he made me his clerk, and then I became the next sergeant's clerk. when I was his clerk, a riot on the yard happened with like 87 inmates between the Hispanics and the whites. When that occurred, there's 3 clerks that work in the clerk's office. The sergeant that was working, his name was Staub, and basically what he did, he wasn't supposed to do. He took all the C files of all the inmates and put them on my desk, kicked the other 2 clerks out, and told me to lock the inmates up. He said, "What I know you're about to see in these files, you won't share with nobody on the yard." I said, "Nah, man, because I'm a neutral party in this. I'm not going to tell you what they're doing, and I'm not going to tell them what you're doing." So I locked all of the dudes up. While I was doing that, the correctional counselor 2 came through there and she asked me to write a letter for her. I wrote that letter and gave it to her. And from there, she took notice of me. And then I became the lieutenant's clerk. And then after being the lieutenant's clerk, I had a year left and I took over a guy that was there when Dean had about a year left. I asked him, could I have his job? And he told me, "Nah, I can't do that." You know how politics is in there, bro. If a white person has a job, they give it to another white. You know what I'm saying? That's just how prison politics is. But I told him, I said, "Man, I'm a child of the Most High God, and I believe that job is mine. I'm gonna leave it at that." A year later, he came to me. He said, "Yeah, the person that I told you that I was, going to refer the job to, they don't want him in there. They think he's creepy. So you're the only person that I know that I could, tell him about." So he did that, and I got his job. Basically, what his job was to run East and West facility. You sent out all ducats. You sent people to classification. You knew all release dates. You knew if you had a doctor's appointment. You knew everything that every inmate inside of the institution was doing, and you managed it for the counselors. So when a person had classification, you gave them the file. You documented everything after the classification. And I had to master Excel, Word, Access, and PowerPoint to do the job. I would bounce between all 4 programs in the process.
And then so having to do all those things or whatever, it actually really prepares you for getting out, coming home and starting a business and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, definitely, bro. Like I said, when I was in the county and I was looking at all that time, God started showing me like different vision and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, how do I get there? I'm going to prison. I don't know nothing about this stuff. But like I said, once I got to CMC, I met Marvin. He started teaching me about corporations. I went to West to learn about business. And once I got there, they took it away. And I started going to Coastline Community College. See, God knows more than we do, because I'm thinking because they took that course away that I wasn't never going to learn the business stuff that I wanted to know. But it wasn't like that. I went to Coastline Community College and was able to get actual college credits for what I was doing instead of just a certificate from the institution. So when I walked out of the prison, bro, I knew everything that God had showed me in those visions.
And so once you walked out and you paroled, what did you start doing then?
I went back to welding, bro. I got out and I started welding. I went back to the job that I got arrested at, San Bernardino Steel, and I got my job back. I worked there for like a year. When I got out, I was making $12.85. When I came back from prison 8 years later, they had only made it to $14.35, something like that. And I'm like, I just was gone 8 years. Like, how are y'all only right here? Like, and then like a month prior, somebody had just got their head chopped off in the shop. And I'm like, man, this is a dangerous environment. So basically I lead that company into a strike, basically for better pay and to unionize. They eventually joined Local 433, and I left and joined Local 360 Floor Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union as a field welder. So then I started traveling the country. I worked on Pachanga expansion. I worked on some pump stations in Anaheim, and then I went out to Vegas and started working on the casino.
And so you just mentioned that you was always, while you was working, you still continued to work on your business. So eventually, did you get your business up and running? And what type of business did you have?
Consulting business, helping people start small businesses, helping people with credit, helping people with just basically anything that you want to do to improve your life, as far as creating a business and building a brand.
And once again, you're qualified to do all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm a certified estate, trust, tax, income fund specialist via the Institute of Business and Finance. And as far as my partners go, I still associate with them. Like those are my childhood friends. These are guys that I grew up with. I've known since I was 3 and 4 and 5 years old, bro. Like, so am I an active gang member? Do I run around? No, No, we're smarter than that. Like, no, I don't do that. I'm not a part of anything like that. And I try to show the little dudes that do try to claim my neighborhood, like, there's a better way. There's another way to do it, bro. I've tried everything to get money on this planet. I've tried it all and it didn't work. And you see me doing the right thing, educating myself and trying to show you a better way to go in life instead of down that road over there. Because if you do anything, bro, like I can't stress this enough. Like, there's a camera on every corner. There's a camera on every corner, bro. There's Ring cameras on everybody's house. They have access to that. And they will track you back to see what you're doing. If you look at the bombing in Vegas that just occurred with the guy, they went back days on him and saw everything that dude was doing. If you don't think that they just did it for him and they can't do it for you, you asinine. Like, if you do something in these days, you stupid. We have been compromised. Every neighborhood has been compromised. Every hood has been compromised. Blood, Crip, it don't matter. Your close friends is telling, whether you want to believe it or not. They in there snitching on you niggas, man. They telling. That's what they doing, because they know they get paid to do that now. That's their job. You don't see them working or doing nothing. They just hanging out on the block doing nothing, just out there. They telling on you. That's what they doing.
Right. And so along with your, your consulting business and things like that, what else do you help people do?
Like I said, taxes, pretty much anything on the computer, bro. Like, I've been messing with the computer for over 20 years. And from those programs that I initially started with, I've just learned so many more after that. Like, I've never left the computer alone.
And so is there anything else that you would like to talk about or mention that you've been doing since you've been home the past, you said 20 years?
Yeah, I've been home 20 years, man. I got out in 2005, April 26th of 2005. I got out. So April 26th of this year will make it 20 years that I've been home, bro.
Right.
Well, I'm working on a project. Hopefully me and you can get started on the project that we're supposed to be working on, chill. But we just completed a project, Web TGM. It's going to be the most controversial album of the year. You want to listen to what is being said in this album, because it's not just anything. It's a real artist work. Everything that we talked about in this interview, I wrote a book called The River Runs Deep. It's based about my life and everything that I went through when I was a kid, and gangbanging and fights. Everything that me and Chill was talking about is inside of it. Both of those will be released within the next month and a half.
And so you also, for those who may not know, so you also do music. Are you on the rapping side, the production side? What's your, what type of hat do you wear when it comes to that?
I'm on the production side. I primarily record vocals and assist with the arrangement of the music. But I use outside production. So we'll take the beats, and then once we get it, then I'll help you arrange the song and put it together.
And so you said that you're working on a project that will eventually be released. Do you have a release date or a tentative date, and where would the project be available on all streaming sites?
Yeah, it'll be available on all streaming sites, but primarily we're going to sell it off the site first. So we'll give you links and you can buy it directly from us. We independent. We're not going through nobody with this, because we know what we got is a gym, bro. Like, everybody you're gonna want to get a bar of this right here. When you see the cover alone, you're gonna want to get a bar of it. Like,
right.
Period. That's gonna make you question a lot of stuff.
And so who is the artist that you're working with?
Mr. Never Too Late. He's a up and coming artist. He's like 4 albums in already, just sitting back waiting for us to release this first project, because once he do, it's on, bro.
All right, man, that's what's up, man. And so is there anything that you would like to talk about or let our viewers know where to find you or anything like that? What if someone wants to get some some advice on consulting or some of the other things that you mentioned? Where would they be able to find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Marquis Brooks. My spelling, my name is MarQuibe, and Brooks, Brooks. And you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on everything.
And that's definitely interesting, because often we hear about people who will go to prison young, then they get out, they go back, they get out, they go back, right? But you definitely changed the narrative. You changed your life around. You made something of the time that you spent in prison, and now you're out here doing a whole lot. We definitely know that technology and computers is basically the way of the world, and so you went in there and learned something that nobody can take away from you, man. And I definitely think that's commendable. And yeah, you guys, I went past there. I listened to some of the music that he's working on, and I will say the music is phenomenal. And so you guys definitely should check that out, man. And anything else you'd like to say?
I appreciate that, chill, real talk. Just remember this, man. People that are incarcerated are human beings. If you take a person, like I asked you, remember that question I asked you, chill? If you take a person when they 18, 19, and you lock them up and you hold them until they in their late 40s, early 50s, how old is that person really when they get out of prison? Like, do people really ever give thought to that? Because there's no developmental growth in the individual when they're sitting in a cell for all that long time, and then you expect them to get out and just put their life together when you have no resources for them along that line to help them get work or to do anything, and all you have is roadblocks up for them. How is it anyone going to be successful in that type of environment, even if it is called California Department of Rehabilitation?
Right, because especially around the time that you and I went to prison definitely wasn't slated toward rehabilitation. They put you in prison, and you gotta sink or swim up in there. So a lot of people choose to fit in. A lot of people actually, especially back in our time, went to prison and came home worse than when they initially went in, just because it's, if you don't fit in, in some situations, you will definitely be, victimized, eaten alive, pulverized, all those type of things, man. So like I say, once again, it's very rare, for an individual to go to prison and realize he has to, change his life, man. I remember real quick, a guy who I was in the cell with, man, and he had been home maybe 3 or 4 months and came back with 25 to life on his third strike. And I was asking him, hey man, when you was locked up, didn't you see people coming to jail, with 3 strikes? And he said, yeah, man, but I didn't pay attention to the law, and I just didn't never think that I'd get caught up. So, I think that's the mindset of a lot of people. They don't think it's going to happen to him. So once again, by you going in there and you're just taking your life by the horns is definitely commendable.
No, I got partners, bro, that, like I said, been locked up for 28 years. One of them, he was only out 70 days from doing 7 years the time before that. And now he's been locked up 28 more years. That's my man's whole life, bro.
Right.
And like I said, my other partner, Pierre, he's 34 years he's been incarcerated. Like, once they put that gang stamp on your ass, that's like AIDS. You can't get rid of that. That shit is there. They gonna always call you that. You're always gonna be viewed as that, and that's what you're gonna be seen as in the criminal justice system. Like, period. And you know that to be true, chill. Like, you could, if I did something today, they would still say that I'm a 1200 block Crip member, and that's the farthest thing from the truth. Like, I done been out the country, got a passport, traveled the world, traveled the country, everything, bro, and left out this country. But yet and still, that's what they will label me as.
Yeah, no, you're right. Once you get that, that convict tag thrown on you, it's almost impossible to shake it. Anytime you get into any type of trouble, that's going to be the first thing they holler, like you say, regardless of how long it may have been since you've been to prison the last time. They're still gonna holler that and act like anybody that's went to prison is incorrigible and stuff like that, man. So I definitely
got one more story for you. Watch this. So I told you I was looking at 248 years and 8 life sentences. I'm gonna show you how God works and how things go in a circle. There was a DA. Her name was Cynthia Brewer. She tried to give me this time the 248 years. I get out. I start a trucking business. I'm doing last mile delivery and installation. So I'm doing deliveries for Home Depot and Dick's Sporting Goods. I get an order across my desk. I see the name, Cynthia Brewer. I'm like, whoa. I get a call like right before it's time for me to do it. Hey, you can't do that order. Don't do that. Okay, fine. I'm not going to do it. I know who this is, but I'm like, nah, this can't be who I think this is. About a month goes by. I get another one of that. I get the same order again. And I'm like, damn. So I call them like, hey, man, I ain't supposed to be doing this. And they was like, nah, they said it's okay for you to go do it. So when I go to this person's house, oh, it's her. It's this lady, bro. I see the actual district attorney that tried to give me the 248 years and 8 life sentences, Cynthia Brewer. I install a recumbent bike for her and I leave. But it was just the fact that she could see you tried to give me a life sentence, but you see me out here being a productive citizen in society. And that's the last impression I left on her. That's all I care about.
And you say you installed what for her?
A stationary bike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I put a stationary bike together for her, put it in her garage, and left.
Did she ever realize that it was you?
Oh, she looked me right in my face. She know who I am. Just like I know who she is. She knew exactly who I was, because I don't know if she's still a district attorney, but she had a problem and they took her off of my case and gave me another district attorney named Thomas Gage. Once I saw Thomas Gage come into the picture, I already knew I was going to be okay. All right, because with her, it's life. That's it. That's all you're getting. I got 248 years for your ass, and that's what you're going to walk away with. But once Thomas Gage got involved, I was like, that life sentence out of here, and I'm fixing to get something reasonable. And to be honest, if I say it, I got a white boy sentence, bro, for what they said I did, to be honest with you. You know they don't give us that kind of time for no bank robbery, bro. I got 9 years with 85%. I should have had 100 and something, because that's what they do to us, bro, because they damn sure gave my two partners 100 and something years for the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So I was blessed, bro. That's what I'm saying. I know God got me here for a purpose, and it was a reason for me to be on here with you, bro. And just to meet you, Chill, I appreciate this. I really do, man. It's truly a pleasure to sit here and talk to you.
Well, same here, man. And I appreciate that you reaching out to me. Hopefully in the future, like you say, we can make some good music, man. I think it's going to be a phenomenal project.
I know it is.
Thank you for coming on my show, sharing your experience with me, sharing your experience with my viewers, talking to us about your life and how you went in and made changes. That I don't think that we have enough interviews where people talk about how they ended up transitioning into a productive, member of society, a member of society, and just a person that doesn't want to go back to prison. So thank you once again, man. I appreciate you for coming on here, and enjoy the rest of your night.
All right, you too, man. And again, man, y'all can get my book. Is The River Runs Deep. It'll be released in the next month and a half. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you, Chill.
All right, thank you.
All right, man. Have a good one.